Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in my quaint little studio. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and you're going to have to be patient with me today here, guys, because I'm running the show by myself. I'm doing all the cameras, graphics, sound, everything, because Jonathan has the day off here on Friday. But I'm not alone. I'm joined by writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
Well, I'm doing wonderfully well, especially after the wonderful entertainment we're going to talk about that I watched last night.
Oh my, I'm very excited to talk about this because I saw two amazing things last night. I saw the documentary John Candy, I Like Me. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. And then when I got home from that screening, I watched something else, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But guys, most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Now, listen, before we get into the topics today, I want to do a little bit of house cleaning. Let you guys know that the movie meetup tour continues, and we've got 4 new dates here that we announced this week. And those dates are on Thursday, October the 9th. I'm going to be in Kansas City at the Leawood, there at the AMC Town Center Leawood 20 for a 7:30 p.m. screening of Tron Ares. Then I'm going to be home in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, just about 45 minutes away from Toronto. So everybody in the Toronto or Hamilton area want to come out to the Cineplex Ancaster Silver City on Tuesday, October 14th for a 7 p.m. screening of Tron Ares. Then the next night, we're going to be in the Chicago area at the AMC South Barrington on Wednesday, October 15th for what time screening is it? A 6:30 p.m. screening of Tron Ares. And then the next night, we're going to be in Indianapolis at the AMC Indianapolis 17 for a 7:10 p.m. screening of Good Fortune. Somebody's saying, why am I watching Tron Ares 3 times? Because it's just because I'm seeing it 3 times, the audiences haven't seen it 3 times. Like I'm going to be watching it one time in Hamilton, one time in Kansas, one time in Chicago. So it's different audience. Not about me. It's about our audience. And that's what we're going to be doing that for. So the way the movie meetups work, it's really simple. You just saw what movies I'm going to be at. If you want to go to that movie too, go to the movie theater's website, buy yourself a ticket and go see the movie and watch it with a bunch of us. And then afterwards, I'll hang out in front of the theater for about an hour to meet people, take pictures, sign things, whatever. And oh my God, Rob, I just checked this morning when we announced the Indianapolis one. The tickets weren't even on sale yet. It had the show time, 7:10 p.m. for Good Fortune. Tickets went on sale yesterday. Theater sold out.
Wow. Well, that's because they're getting an Olympic gold medalist.
There were only 4 tickets left. And so I had to get tickets for me and Ann to sit at the very front of the theater. We're going to be sitting in the front row for it. But the tickets in Kansas City have been going. Chicago's almost sold out. I can't see the Hamilton map, so I don't know how that's doing. But we're looking forward to seeing you. And yes, guys, we will be doing more cities. But that's the ones we have coming up right now. So we look forward to seeing you guys there. All right, guys. With that all down, let's get things started with this. Last night, Peacemaker, the second to last episode, came out. And I'll tell you what, guys, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was just awesome. Now, probably like a lot of other people, I was at first pretty pissed when I loaded up the episode and I saw a 33-minute runtime. I'm not going to lie. I instantly felt pissed. You guys know how I feel about this. If you're a big streamer and you're doing a premium show that we're supposed to count down every week till the next episode, give us a little bit more than 33 fucking minutes. How about that? So I have to admit, as much as I love Peacemaker, I was really kind of disturbed when I saw a 33-minute runtime. On top of the fact that like last week's episode was 37. Granted, I loved last week's episode, but still, Rob, that disappointment didn't last long.
Nope.
As they got into the episode, and I will go out on a limb and say this, I won't bear the lead. I think it might have been the best episode of Peacemaker so far, season 1 or season 2. But I also think last night's episode of Peacemaker put an exclamation point on it. The debate's over. It's done. The DCU is heading in the right direction. And the discussion is over. The DCU is in the right hands, in James Gunn's hands. And I'll kind of go into details as to why I kind of feel that way. Now, guys, just so you know, we are going to go into some details about last night's episode. So be forewarned. We are going to talk about this kind of in an open spoilery sort of way, whatever you can spoil in 33 minutes, but still we're going to talk about an open spoilery way. You've been warned, but if you're really into Peacemaker, you probably saw the episode already anyway. The first thing I got to point out, Rob, is John Cena. We've been kind of making mention about this, that John Cena has grown so much as an actor. He really has. And you've really seen it in this season so far, but never more so than last night when he just watched a good version of his dad die and now about to watch his brother die again. And he gave 15 seconds of the best acting of his career. I've seen a lot of actors have to do every once in a while an actor's got to do a no kind of scene, right? Like every actor's got that. And I've seen it done. But I'll tell you what, when John Cena ripped his out, you felt the pain. You felt the conflict. You felt the agony and the anguish. And it wasn't just that guttural scream when he scrambles over to his brother's beaten body and he lets out that line. First of all, great writing. When he rips out the line, "What the fuck is wrong with us? What is wrong with us?" Like, as he's giving that quick little short speech, I was like, listen, I'm not trying to hyperbolize this or anything, Rob, but I don't know how that scene could have been done better. I don't know how any actor, I'm not saying John Cena is the best actor in the world. I'm just saying the way he did that 1 minute, I don't know how any actor could have gone in there and played that scene any better. And by the way, it was a combination of a great performance, great writing, because the way that, because sometimes, Rob, I find it kind of cheesy sometimes when TV shows like do quick little flashbacks to things we know very well. But as he's sitting there and going through that and then showing the quick flashbacks of, Flag, him killing Flag, and him killing his doppelganger, and him killing whatever, and like realizing everything I touch dies, and like all that kind of stuff. This was like that perfect storm of great visuals, great writing, great performance. And I just thought they absolutely nailed that. I thought it was emotionally moving. And here's why, Rob, I said that, I think this puts a nail in the discussion about, is the DCU heading in the right direction? Is the DCU in the right hands? James Gunn in this episode has shown once again, he has mastered the art of finding that great balance between true human experience and wild, weird entertainment. And in everything he does, he strikes that balance, but some projects he moves it a little bit more one way, so it leans a little bit more to one. In some projects, it leans the other way and leans more to one. And sometimes it'll find the directly right down the line balance. But he has mastered being able to find where that balance is for each individual project he does. And again, last night's episode, and by the way, I've never really liked the Judo Master character until last night.
Yeah.
last night, especially the one line, that's the most people I've ever killed in a swimming pool with electrical lines. Well, how many? 4. I mean, I love that. And when she's like, why do you save me? He goes, didn't seem like a fair fight. Like all of a sudden, I love this character. All of a sudden, I completely love the character. And then they built on that stuff they did last week with Vigilante meeting himself. And they just went right to town on that in this episode, which worked utterly fantastic. But we got to talk about the big thing, of course. And the big thing was the revelation that Peacemaker's dad in that universe is not just another Nazi whatever. Like in Earth X, his dad is actually, like when he gives that speech, listen, girly, like maybe you are able to fight every single injustice you see, but I'm trying to remember the line perfectly, and I'm sure I messed it up a little bit, but he says, I've got to fight the villains and monsters in front of me. That's all I can do. I can only fight the ones, and I do the best I can. And he's giving this amazing speech that frankly only Robert Patrick can do. Like sometimes we forget just how good of an actor he is, and he's giving that speech, and then the direction of the writing is perfect. In the midst of that speech, as you're feeling this heartwarming moment and the camera's cutting to Chris, to Peacemaker, and you see this warmth coming over him. And at that exact moment, Vigilante comes through the window, and you're like, oh my God. And like, you're just freaking out. And it was just so perfect, so well done. Oh, and by the way, I got to throw this up too. If I read this on a page, Rob, I would have thought that's not going to work. That seems cheesy. But they found a way to make it work. As Peacemaker and Hardcourt are riding down on the peace cycle and they're being chased, and she then just puts her head down on his back. There was something so moving about that and something so emotional about that. And it was just beautifully done. And then, at the end, when he pulls they all came in there to convince me to give myself up and give this to you. So here you go. And by the way, Rob, the way they ended it with the brother. First of all, that was a badass moment when Harcourt's like, give me your gun. Sorry, I can't have you coming after him. She was about to straight up murder him. Like he's incapacitated. He's no threat, anything like that. But now her loyalty to Chris is so hard, and she's like, sorry, I can't have you coming after him anymore. Even though we're about to close the rift between our universes and everything, I can't risk it. I'm about to kill you. And yet they leave him alive. And so my guess is, Rob, we're not going to see him in the next episode. I don't think we're going to see him in the finale. I think they're done with Earth Mega at this point. But they leave an open door. They leave a little string that if they choose to follow this later, they can. And we've got a compelling, emotionally relevant foil to Peacemaker now in another dimensions version of his own brother. Rob, I loved everything about this episode. I just can't get over how great I think it was. And it wasn't even the finale. Anyway, you saw the episode last night. I remember it was about 11 o'clock or 11:30 last night, and I just get this text from you, dude, Peacemaker. So like you saw it last night. What were your thoughts about it?
Like you, I mean, first of all, I too was disappointed in the running time until I started to watch it. And then I realized we were going full throttle the whole time. And it was like one long tension filled. I mean, like you pointed out, the way James Gunn writes, he didn't direct this episode, but the way he writes, he straddles that line between pathos, seriousness, and total bonkers absurdity. And that's kind of what Peacemaker, where he's lived. I mean, it harks back to what he did in things like Slither and Super, and even the book he wrote, The Toy Collector. And when we got into the house, and you saw what was happening when Robert Patrick is trying to convince Chris's brother that, "No, no, 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 you don't understand. I've been to that other universe. I've seen myself." I was like, "Wow," and then when he starts, like you said, giving that speech, you realize when he isn't a Nazi. Like, he's not a product of that alternate universe. He's his own man, and you realize that the family unit that they had, it was Chris was the problem. He was talking about Chris's issues, and it was a great way to turn things around because they already portrayed everybody in that universe as being, these crazed evil fascists, and it was really interesting to play against that with the family dynamic. And then, like you said, I was getting moved. I was in the middle of, like, getting emotional about it, and then when Vigilante burst in, I was like, "No!" I literally, like, yelped, and when I was watching it, and it was so vicious, and so I'm like, "Oh my god." And, for a half an hour bit of TV, and you know what's really interesting about this show is it's fairly contained. This is not a big budget show. They're, like, shooting in neighborhoods in Atlanta. I love the fact that we were up in Washington State, but it's not they really make this show terrific, and it's not budgetarily they're not breaking the bank with this show. And, it's just a terrific piece of work. And like you said, this episode was I don't wanna make it sound like it's Godfather 2 or something, but for the show itself, it really, I think, elevated the material farther than it's ever been elevated before. It really took the show to another level, I think, emotionally.
Yeah, yeah, it really did. And again, this leads us into next week. By the way, I love the fact that they brought back the tech guy from Superman, because I actually really like
Oh,
that character.
that he was great.
Yeah, because he kind of gets a bum deal because, like, he was trying to talk Lex out of doing the worst stuff, and it's like, and now here he is, and it's like, I'm glad he's back. I think he can be a real asset to the DCU as a whole moving forward. But this, again, it leads into a lot of questions about who is the big cameo next week. I don't think it's going to be Overman. I think they have closed off Earth X now for at least the rest of this season with only one episode left. So I don't know who the big cameo is going to be next week, but I'm super excited about it. I cannot wait to see where they go with this. And anyway, guys, question is for you. What did you think about the new episode of Peacemaker? I was initially very disappointed to hear the runtime. Oh, and by the way, Rob, by the way, next week's runtime, 57 minutes.
Ooh.
Yeah, they announced that it's going to be 57 minutes for next week. So at least it's going to be a good, long, proper finale. Whatever you guys thought about the new episode, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on and talk about this, shall we? I don't think it's hyperbole to say that one of the biggest, most important, if not the most important decision coming up in the world of entertainment is not who's going to be the next James Bond, though that's a very important one in the world of entertainment, or who's going to be the DCU's Batman, although that's also an important one, but rather way more significance is who's going to be the next CEO of Disney. Because remember, Bob Iger came back to kind of stop the ships from sinking because of Bob Chapek, but he's gone at the beginning of 2026, in early 2026, right? He's already said, I'm permanently retiring at the end of 2026. And they cannot afford another fiasco like a Bob Chapek. They cannot survive it. And so this upcoming decision that they have about who to replace him is absolutely crucial. And now, according to a story in the New York Post, they're saying it's down to two people now. Let's read what they're saying here. They're saying the race to succeed Disney CEO Bob Iger is now down to two final candidates, and the head of the theme parks division appears to be the likely winner, according to report. Josh D'Amaro, who currently holds the title of chairman of Disney Experiences, has been out in front in recent months, attending movie premieres, speaking at investor conferences, and holding court with company employees. D'Armo's increasingly public profile has left insiders with the distinct impression that he is the favorite to emerge in what has become a two-horse succession race against Disney Entertainment co-chair Dana Walden, according to Bloomberg News reports. So here we got it. They're saying it's down to D'Armo and Walden. Now, before we go into either of those two, again, just have to completely reiterate how vital, like without any ounce of exaggeration or hyperbole, I believe this is a make or break moment for Disney. This is a make or break moment for Disney. Because granted, Iger came back, you resteadied the ship. Marvel is now in a much better place than it was. You know, it took years to kind of repair it, but Marvel's back in a much better place than it was. With Andor having come out, and now we got Starfighter coming, there's a little bit, at least a monicum of optimism returning to Star Wars. You know, all this kind of stuff. But, you know, Iger said, I'm only here to the beginning of 2026. We need somebody to replace me because I'm moving on. They have to make sure this time around that they get somebody who is in tune with the priorities and the direction that Disney is now heading in. Because the problem with Bob Chapek, and remember, I thought Bob Chapek on paper was a perfectly good selection. And he was. On paper, he was a perfectly good selection. The problem is, the moment he came in, he decided to do this radical reorganization of the entire company that made all of us go, whoa, wait a minute, what are you doing? Taking authority away from guys like Kevin Feige and the studio heads, creating new middle layers of management where his banker buddies were making decisions about entertainment and all kinds of stuff. And it just threw everything into chaos. It alienated all the talent from Disney. Of course, the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit became a big kind of representation of everything that was going wrong. They cannot have that again. They need to get somebody to come in who understands the Disney culture, who understands where it's going, and who understands the need to empower Rob, empower the creatives they have there, not strip the creatives of their power. And you know, you're looking at these two now when you're talking about Walden, who's currently a co-head of the studios, right? So that's the studio side. D'Armo, who's like the head of the other stuff that Disney does, cruises and parks, and arguably the more important parts of Disney. I'm sure they both understand the Disney culture. I'm sure they both have worked very closely with Iger. I'm sure they both fully understand how everything went wrong with Chapek. I'm sure neither of them will repeat those mistakes. But to me, it comes down to which one of these two are going to do their job and empower other people to do theirs. Because, you know, with all the faults and all the strengths of Bob Iger, one of his biggest strengths is the fact that he gives people responsibility, and then he gives them authority to carry out their responsibility. You know, and it's going to be down to me whichever one of these two can do that best. Anyway, Rob, you're looking at this whole situation. Like, what are you looking for as far as traits and in the next Disney CEO? How important is this next decision? And do you lean one way or the other when it comes to these two horses in front of the race?
Well, I think one, it's an incredibly important decision because rightly or wrongly, Disney has a lot of input and a lot of influence on our culture. And if you think about it, from the time we are born, we here in the United States and around the world, the Disney brand and the Disney imagery influences us from the time we're small children now till, you know, being middle-aged men with one foot in the grave. So I think that there is the custodianship of Disney and what Disney represents, you know, the happiest place on earth being Disneyland, or putting a smile on a child's face the first time you get to watch, say, Aladdin or The Lion King or Beauty and the Beast. This is not to be trifled with or taken lightly. And I think that moving forward into the 21st century, the fact that people are going to want better experiences. We're going to be able to use, the Disney parks have been around now since the 50s, and they're only going to get better with technology. And I think that Disney is also, through their films and through their real life experiences in the parks, they're pushing all different kinds of technologies. So it's a really important company that is led by somebody who's both visionary and also has a real handle on practical business matters. Because Disney, I mean, from cruise ships to giant parks to movies and television to gaming, there's so much within Disney that it needs somebody that has a holistic sense of it all. And it is important. I mean, yeah, is it going to cure cancer? No, but I think putting smiles on people's faces goes a long way to making our civilization better. So that might be a little hyperbolic, but I do think it's really important. So I don't know enough about either candidate, but it seems like the person that's coming from parks, because parks are they have all different kinds of things within those parks, and the parks are representative of all of the other creative endeavors at Disney. And there's various parks that have Avatar experiences, or I remember, when Cars Land opened in California Adventure, and soaring through California is still one of my favorite things to do in Southern California, sitting in the ride, and now you travel around the world. It's great. So I do think that somebody coming from that parks background is probably crucial. So maybe
I had,
that direction.
yeah, maybe. I had somebody before the show started. I was in the live chat with some people, and one of our viewers said, we really got to get a CEO who can engage with the fans and get engaged with the fans and talk to the fans across all the things and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and I honestly said, no, we don't. Quite frankly, I don't want somebody who's out there high-fiving with the fans and getting on stage much and stuff like that. I want a boring, smart, talented, competent leader sealed away in their boardroom, making right decisions and empowering other people to be the faces of the brand.
Yeah.
I don't need a showman. Okay. You get somebody else to be the showman. I want somebody who's boring and smart. That's all I want. It's kind of what I want in a prime minister and a president as well. Somebody who's just boring and smart. But I mean, that's what I think Disney needs right now. They don't need a showman. They need somebody who knows what they know, run the business, and then hire and empower other people to do that other stuff. At least that's the way I think they need to go.
But I also think that person needs to be a fan of Disney's brands.
Agreed.
And understand synergistically why Marvel, Star Wars, the Disney live action and animated shows, why all that stuff matters, and where does the Disney magic come from? You've got to understand that. Why does Star Wars have universal appeal? What makes the difference between great MCU movies and mediocre MCU movies? You've got to understand those things as well, because that way it allows you to empower the right creative people.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? According to that article, they're saying it's now down to the last two people. It's a 2-horse race now to be the next Disney CEO. And guess what? 2026 is really almost on us here. We're going to be getting the new successor, a new age in Disney. How do you see it going? What type of person do you want to see in that role? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? We were talking a little bit about how the biggest upcoming decision in entertainment is not who's going to be Batman. It's who's going to be the new CEO of Disney. But who's going to be the next Batman in the DCU is also a very big topic. We've heard a lot of names being thrown out there. Alan Ritchson has said he wants to do it, the guy who plays Reacher. He says, as a matter of fact, he is going to probably be in the DCU, just probably not Batman. We've heard a lot of other names. Well, now another actor is throwing their name in the hat. Punisher actor Ben Barnes, who I have been a big fan of for a long time. I think this guy, he's big. He has a good career. I think this guy should be bigger. I think this guy is a remarkable talent. He's got the talent, he's got the look, he's got the charisma, he's got it all. Well, apparently now, Ben Barnes has thrown his name in the hat to want to be Batman. He was at an event recently and said the following. I was actually watching my parents just visited me and they brought some like little kid videos and we were watching some old family videos. And in every single one, I was dressed like Batman or Robin Hood. I think there may have been a Spider-Man one, but it was mainly Batman. So obviously, I was from age 4 and up. I obviously requested that. Hey, I accept, just call me. I've got Bruce Wayne ready to go. Now look, actor wants job is not exactly huge highlight material. Okay. Every actor wants to work. Every actor wants something. And, you know, we talked recently about how James Gunn came out and said, guys, it's not about who wants to be Batman. It's like, who doesn't want to be Batman? Like he's saying everybody's agents are calling me now. Everybody in this business wants to be Batman and all that kind of stuff. But I really like the Ben Barnes idea for a couple of reasons. One, there have only been a couple of guys that themselves have come out publicly and explicitly said, hey, Batman right here. Like Alan Ritchson was one of them, Ben Barnes being another one.
I mean, look at him.
Oh, dude, tell me that's not Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Tell me that's not Bruce Wayne. I mean, this guy, and I loved him in Punisher. I mean, obviously everybody remembers him from the old Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, like Prince Caspian and stuff like that. But he has been remarkable in everything he's done and in everything he's been in. He is top level talent. He's absolutely top level talent. Now, the one thing working against Barnes is his age, because he's right up at the top of what I would consider to be the acceptable age range. Like I'm thinking 45 is about as high as you go. And he, I believe right now is 44. So he's in that window, but like right near the top of it. So that's the one main thing working against him right now. But I'll tell you what, you want to talk about talent, the look, the charisma. He's got tons of action in his background that he's been able to draw on and do. Man, listen, am I saying here, Rob, that this is the guy? That's it. Stop all the searches. This is the guy. Nobody else can be Batman but Ben Barnes. I'm definitely not saying that at all. But I am saying I think James Gunn would be a fool if he didn't at least consider it. Like, because it's just such a great potential fit. Like, listen, for all we know, James Gunn wants a 28-year-old Batman. Okay, if that's the case, clearly it's not Ben Barnes. We move on. But I mean, if he is looking for something in that register, then he would be a fool not to at least consider Ben Barnes. Not necessarily pick him, but consider him. So, Rob, I'm just saying there's probably about 10, 11, 12 names that I would love to see as Batman. Include Ben Barnes as one of those names for me. Anyway, Rob, you saw this story and heard this. What do you make of it?
Well, it's, you know, it's funny. You know, I think it's really funny that in this day and age, you can create this hype and you can create these stories by using social media in properly applied ways. So I love the idea behind this. But at the end of the day, I think it's a choice. It's these kinds of choices that might not be on people's radars that deserve to be promoted in whatever way, shape, or form that they can be. And like you pointed out, I mean, all the way, I worked on the first Narnia movie, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I didn't work on Prince Caspian, but he was great in it. And I've been a fan of his now for 20 years. And I think he truly would be a great Batman. I think he would be a great Bruce Wayne. And I think he could be the kind of Batman, more importantly, that James Gunn wants to cast in his DC universe, because that's the real thing. Like, what kind of a Batman does he want to be? If they're going to do Brave and the Bold and it's going to be a Batman that's going to have Robin and you've got that interplay, the current Batman, Matt Fraction's Batman that's being published today has a really great Batman Robin interplay, and if they went in that direction, Ben Barnes could be a great actor to pull that off. But that's the real question is what kind of Batman stories, what tone are we going to get?
Yeah, I mean, and that's always the hard part with any fan casting, right? Like whenever the difficult thing, because I bring this up whenever people throw names, and I have to say it now, even though Ben Barnes is throwing his own name in the hat. We can't try to pick an actor for it when we really haven't read the script. We don't know what kind of Batman he's doing. If James Gunn goes in a certain direction, Ben Barnes is the perfect guy. But if he goes in a slightly different direction, maybe Ben Barnes isn't the guy. Maybe it's somebody else. And that's why it's always hard when we do fan castings, an X actor and X role, because we're doing our fan casting based on the character, the way we have them in our heads, not necessarily the way they're in the script. So it's really tough to do it sometimes. I'm just saying, if this was one of the names that James Gunn holds a press conference tomorrow and says, I've cast my new Batman and the new Batman is, drum roll. Like I said, there's about 12 names he could mention that I would be thrilled about.
Yeah.
Ben Barnes is one of them. Ben Barnes is definitely one of them. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about all this? Ben Barnes comes straight up and says, hey, I'd love to play Batman. Let me be Batman. And I got to tell you, I would love it as a pick if James Gunn thinks it's, appropriate for the way they're writing him. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Last night, myself and Ann, we went into Hollywood to the Montalban Theater, where there was a special screening of the upcoming documentary film, John Candy, I Like Me. Now, the trailer for this came out a while ago, and I don't know if there's ever been a trailer that made me tear up. Like a trailer that made me tear up. And I straight up got emotional watching the trailer to I Like Me. Because you got to understand, I'm a Hamilton, Toronto kid. I'm a Canadian kid. I grew up in a world that John Candy lived in, and that John Candy was entertaining the world. He was one of a kind. And there have been many performers that have come after John Candy that have tried to be in the John Candy template. But there was only one John Candy, and he was ridiculously phenomenal. He was ridiculously talented. And I was really looking forward to seeing what Colin Hanks, Tom Hanks' son, would do as the director of the film. Of course, Ryan Reynolds, the producer of the film as well. So I went to go see it last night, and I am thrilled to say I could not be happier with what I saw. It was a joyous celebration of the life of John Candy, but it was also incredibly informative. Like I know a lot about John Candy. There was a lot of stuff in there that I didn't know that just like exponentially grew my appreciation for him, like to enormous degrees. The amount of people in the documentary talking about John Candy, whether it's Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Eugene Levy, Martin Short. I mean, it just went on and on and on with this, like Catherine O'Hara, like on and on and on. All these people talking about John Candy and what he meant and how larger than life that he was and all that kind of stuff. But Rob, for me, the question going into this documentary was, what's the story going to be? Because I've made a documentary, right? Movie Trailers, a Love Story. But in making that documentary, and myself and another filmmaker had looked for about a year at making another documentary. And the primary question for both of them is, okay, this is a great topic to make a documentary about, but what's the story? And they found the story. Because you could do a documentary about John Candy and it's just a bunch of facts. In 1973, he did this, and in 1975, he did this. But they found the story, and the story is about a wonderful, warm, but in his own way also kind of broken man, and how that guided the journey he went on until he passed away. And it was beautiful, and it was touching, and it was warm, and it was eye-opening, and it was riveting, and it was emotional. It was really emotional. And you know, they did something really interesting with the movie. They start the movie with his funeral. Like, the movie starts, little date, 1994, and it starts with his funeral, and then the clock goes backwards. And they tell it in such a way, Colin Hanks kind of structures it in such a way that it just becomes riveting. You're following along the journey with it. Because again, a lot of documentaries fall into the trap of just throwing a lot of information at you. This wasn't that. This was a journey that this thing took us on that, again, was just culminated in just this beautiful, wonderful life that was John Candy. And it really makes you leave the theater, again, here's the word, feeling emotional. But Rob, I can't remember the last time ever feeling that itch to just wanting to rewatch all of John Candy's movies again. Like,
Right.
you come out of this, when you watch this movie, you're going to want to just book off your next week just to watch all the John Candy movies. And oh my God, Macaulay Culkin, in this movie, telling the story about, like, he said, you know, he had an awful father, and he said, I was 8 years old, man, and no adult figure was more important to me and made more of an impression on me and my life and me knowing my own self-worth, even as a child, than John Candy. And he said something, Rob, because Macaulay Culkin came out on stage at the end because they did this big Q&A. Wow. It was John Candy's two children, Ryan Reynolds, Colin Hanks, Macaulay Culkin, and Steve Martin came out on stage, who, by the way, got the biggest ovation out of anybody there was Steve Martin. Anyway, not Steve Martin, Martin Short. Martin Short. Oh, yeah. So Martin Short got the biggest applause out of anybody. But, you know, Macaulay Culkin, one of the most beautiful moments of the night was during the Q&A, and Macaulay Culkin says, listen, I'm 7 years older now than John Candy was when we shot Uncle Buck. And he said, I have my own kids now, and there's nothing I wish more in the world than I could have John Candy meet my kids. That, like, and everybody in the audience is like, I'm getting emotional right now. It's like, ooh, like saying, like, he goes, I'm now 7 years older than John Candy was when we shot Uncle Buck, and there's nothing I wish more than I could have John meet my kids. And there was just something warm and beautiful about that. And that statement, that sentiment was really, it permeated through the entire documentary. And I'll tell you guys a story that I told Rob last night, but this isn't in the movie, but Martin Short is talking, and he mentions, and he says this thing that I have never known, Rob. I have never known this. Three Amigos. Martin Short's character, Ned, was supposed to be John Candy.
Yeah, I've never heard that. I didn't know that at all.
It was supposed to be John Candy. It was supposed to be Ned. It was supposed to be Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, and John Candy. And Martin Short he turned it down. I think it's because at that point he was traveling too much and he didn't want to be away from his kids, which is amazing. But he says, John Candy recommended me. Martin Short said. He said, but then Martin Short goes, I was there last year. I think they even offered it to Carrot Top. But he said, John Candy recommended me. And then that's how the Three Amigos ended up being Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, and Martin Short, and created what has been now a lifelong entertainment partnership between Martin Short and Steve Martin that is still permeating today. And I just thought that was incredible. Rob, I got to tell you, when we saw the trailer for I Like Me, we both loved it and we both had high hopes. But let's face it, I don't know Colin Hanks as a documentary director.
Oh,
Um,
I do.
I know
Colin
he
Hanks,
has, but I haven't seen his other one, right?
he made a documentary about Tower Records
Yeah.
called
Oh, that's right. I forgot he did that
All
one. Yes, yes,
Things
yes.
Must Pass. Dude, I own that. I have the Blu-ray of that documentary. I think I've watched it 10 times. I was at Tower Records. Growing up in Seattle, we had 3 Tower Records. Tower Records was very important to me. And what Colin Hanks did in that documentary, I mean, it talks about larger issues about a passing of an industry and all that, but he did a wonderful job. And when I heard that now he solely directed this documentary, right? He was
Yes,
only
he
directed
directed it himself.
that. When I heard that he was going to do that, this documentary, I'm like, oh, it's in very good hands.
Yeah.
So
You know what else I didn't know that was really kind of highlighted in the documentary? Him and John Hughes were best friends. I didn't realize that. But then you forget how many movies he's been in, like from like Uncle Buck, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Stripes. I mean, it just goes.
Stripes was like the first time I saw him, and that was what, 81?
Yeah, 1941 as well.
Yeah, he was in 41.
I think that was his first movie was
Yeah.
1941. I mean, he was just, but him and of course Barf in Spaceballs. Mel
Yeah.
Brooks, you saw Mel Brooks was in the trailer telling stories about John Candy and all that kind of stuff. But like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was, and then it was kind of neat too because I missed it before, but Ryan Reynolds starts telling this story in the Q&A afterwards about how, oh, John Candy, I put John Candyisms in every single one of my movies. He goes, if you go back through all of my movies, like even in Deadpool and Wolverine, what's his coffee mug? Oh, and of course, Just Friends, which is one of my favorite Ryan Reynolds movies. But even in Deadpool Wolverine, on his coffee mug, I like me. And that was a direct reference to his speech in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And it was also like from a personal point of view, Rob, the whole night was a celebration of being Canadian. It really was.
Right.
It was just a great celebration of being Canadian. And yeah, man, I can't recommend it enough. I believe it comes out on Amazon Video on October 10th. And I highly recommend to everybody, watch this movie as soon as you can. Again, it's John Candy, I Like Me. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. I think right now it's got like an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. It should be higher. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is the greatest documentary of all time and this is going to win the Oscar. I'm not saying that, but it's a beautiful, wonderfully done documentary where if you're a film fan, man, this is one for you. So make sure you guys check it out next week when it goes on to streaming. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, of course, James Gunn, he's cooking. I mean, we already talked about Peacemaker, about how he's crushing it with Peacemaker. Superman was a giant success for them with everything they needed it to accomplish, and they did it. Everybody's excited about the Lantern series, Supergirl, Clayface, but we know there's a lot more to come. And now, James Gunn, who has said previously that we're not going to officially announce any movie or announce any green light until we have a fully completed, ready-to-shoot script. Well, now, according to a new story and interview with James Gunn, they may be there, as he's saying he's right on the cusp of being ready to announce 2 new movies and a new HBO series. This comes to us from the folks over at Screen Rant, who wrote the following. In a new interview with GQ magazine, Gunn was asked if he could share any new updates about his new interconnected universe and tease anything new that he hasn't already discussed in the past. As he's getting ready for Man of Tomorrow, which is the next film in the Superman saga, the DC Studios co-CEO teased 2 future movies and an untitled TV show close to being greenlit. James Gunn said, right now, there's actually 2 really cool film scripts that I'm hoping to take to the next level that we have general plans for, and I'm excited for both of these. And then I'm excited about one TV project in particular. I don't know why we're not greenlighted on it already. It's just figuring out the budget. So there's a couple of things that are very present and I'm excited about dealing with getting Supergirl into shape and all these other things. So here he is, Rob, talking about the fact that All right, we've got two that were right on the cusp of green lighting, and we've got a television project that I don't even know why we haven't greenlit it yet already, because we're just putting the last little spreadsheets together on the budget and all that kind of stuff. This, of course, is going to be very exciting for everybody, but it raises the question and allows us as fans to do our favorite things, which is to speculate. What are the two movies he's about to greenlight? And maybe more mysterious is, what's the series he's about to greenlight? So I want to throw a couple of options out here that could be the movies he's about to greenlight. All right. One of them, I think, is Batman Brave and the Bold. I think that's one of the ones that obviously this is one that has been in the pipe for a long time. He's talked about the fact in past months that the script is really coming together and everything like that. Getting Batman on screen is something you've got to do sooner rather than later with a brand new DC cinematic universe. You've got to get that underway. So I really believe that one of those projects is going to be Batman. That leaves two other spots, or one other spot. One of the potential ones for that other spot is another film he's said they've been kind of, fast tracking, which is a Wonder Woman project. We've known for a while they've already got a writer on board for it. We know James Gunn has said that Wonder Woman is a priority for them. We know that the script has already been in development for a while. So I think on top of that Batman Brave and the Bold, I think the other one could be Wonder Woman. But the other potential one for that extra spot could be Booster Gold. It could be Booster Gold. They may want to give more time to cook their Wonder Woman project. And there's been a lot of whispers and ruminations about a Booster Gold thing. Obviously, a Booster Gold is a character that I think would fit very well into a James Gunn cinematic universe for DC. So those are the ones that I think he's getting ready to announce. Rob, what do you think are some of the potential candidates? He said there's two films. I'm right on the cusp of being ready to greenlight. What do you think those films could be? And then I didn't get to mine yet, but then what do you think the series could be? Because on top of that, he's saying he's got a series ready to go for HBO. What do you see as the candidates for all of those?
Well, I mean, I think that, like you pointed out, the obvious ones would be the movies that they've been talking about previously. And Wonder Woman and Booster Gold, I think, are obvious candidates, but Brave and the Bold would be, I would see that as the priority, getting the Batman character up and running. I would think that would be of importance. But the other one that somebody mentioned at some point was a Teen Titans movie.
Right.
And that's a team film that they could look. I'm a huge Teen Titans fan. I would love to see them do a film that kind of skews closer to the Marv Wolfman, George Perez Teen Titans that a lot James Gunn's really influenced by the 80s DC universe. And I loved the Teen Titans from that era. And I could see a lot less darker than what they put on, was it CW? No,
right.
Was it, that show was okay, but I would love to see, so that's what I think that the potential could be, because I think that would really, it's a team comic, or team movie, but it also has many different kinds of characters. So it's got that James Gunn flavor to it, even though I'm sure someone else will direct it. So that's what I think. I think Teen Titans could be a dark horse candidate for a movie that they're going to make, but I don't know.
So here's the thing. For the series, there's a couple of options. One, it's already kind of been suggested that Booster Gold could be a series. I'm just saying, because remember, James Gunn has not made anything official. I think Booster Gold may actually end up being a movie. I think Booster Gold will actually end up being a movie. So again, I have no insider information on that. I'm just saying I'm kind of looking at the tea leaves, and I'm thinking Booster Gold may not end up being a series. I think it'll end up being a movie. So
unless they did a Blue and the Gold, a Blue Beetle Booster Gold.
Yep,
series.
Which is something that's something they could absolutely do, because we know he likes Blue Beetle. For the series, I'm going to kind of fall in line with you, but in a different format. I think Titans could be something they do on HBO.
Sure.
And you know what? And I think it would be Titans. I don't think it'd be Teen Titans.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
it'll be Titans because I mean I think there's a distinction there, or even a straight up Nightwing series. It all depends on how old they're going to make Batman. If they're going to have a young Batman, which I kind of hope they don't, and I'll tell you why I hope they don't give us a young Batman. Okay. Like, it's great for Matt Reeves as the Batman universe because it's great that we have somebody who's just getting started in their Batman career. But in a DC cinematic universe that already exists, where superheroes have been around for a while, if Batman is going to be the man that in the comics Superman says is the most dangerous man in the world, the guy who is always 3 steps ahead of everybody, and he doesn't give a shit that he doesn't have superpowers. He will beat your ass. It don't matter what planet you're from. It don't matter what powers you have. If you're going to get, I want that Batman. And if we're going to have that Batman, I'm sorry, he can't be 29.
Right.
He
Yeah.
can't even be 30. It needs a guy who has been around, who has been in the wars, who is far more experienced, who has far more seasoned. If you're going to give us a Batman that is truly the baddest guy on the block, the one that everybody goes, oh crap, Batman's here? What? Like, if the guy who punches out Green Lanterns, if you're going to give us that Batman, it's got to be a Batman who I think minimum is 40. So if they do give us a Batman that's like 40, 41, 42, Ben Barnes's age, for example, then you could actually go right to a Nightwing series if you wanted to. You could arguably have a 21, 22-year-old Nightwing if you wanted to, and you could have a Nightwing series straight up. Now, if they do go in a different direction and give us a Batman that's like the same age as Superman, like early 30s, maybe late 20s, well, then there goes Nightwing. There's no Nightwing series to do. Not if you're going to have any kind of consistency with comic lore at any rate. Now, I'm okay if they take some liberties, but so yeah, I'm kind of seeing either a Nightwing series, a Titans series, maybe Booster Gold, as being some of the directions they can go. But I'll tell you what, the thing I'm most excited about right now, Rob, is loving Peacemaker, and I love Superman, but I'm now ready to see what's the other side of the DCU going to look like.
Totally.
What is Lanterns going to look like? What is Clayface going to look like? And seeing James Gunn move that needle into the darker areas, into the more, true detective kind of stuff with Lanterns, I'm really curious to see what he does there. And then once we do, maybe we'll have some more ideas about what this HBO series could be.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because I think it's a tonal issue for me too. I think that Peacemaker and Superman are definitely in terms of they're on one side of a tonal spectrum. And I think the people that maybe aren't digging what James Gunn has been cooking up, it's because of that tonal issue, the humor combined with the whimsy. And I think something like Lanterns I would imagine it's not going to have those elements. So it'll give us, like you said, a different area. And I think that's really important because I think in addition to the characters, the new DC universe has to show that they can tell stories with all different kinds of tones that add to the universe as a whole. I also wanted to throw out a random crazy idea about what a TV series could be. A Maxwell Lord series.
Ooh.
Because,
who is being played by James Gunn's brother
right
now.
And people would scream nepotism, but I love the Maxwell Lord character who founded the Justice League International. And I did not like Pedro Pascal's portrayal of Maxwell Lord in Wonder Woman 1984. But I think we've already seen Maxwell Lord briefly. We saw him briefly in a picture in Superman, but we saw him briefly in Peacemaker. And doing a show, what's it like to be a captain of industry in the DC universe. And it would allow him to interact with, different countries. We saw little international shenanigans going on in Superman. And he also, he has his own superheroes. I mean, the Justice Gang he finances. So it might not be at first the most appealing thing, but it could really be an interesting way to examine the DC universe that we've never seen before in live action. So maybe, I mean, I'm making this up. I know nothing about this. I'm just thinking I just like the character. I liked him in Justice League International. And I think it'd be really interesting and a way to explore a superhero universe we've never seen before. And if it's an episodic show, and it's a great place where people can come and go, not necessarily cameos, but he could do episodes with characters that are pertinent to fleshing out the universe more.
Well, guys, the question is for you. James Gunn is saying here he's basically on the cusp of announcing 2 new greenlit movies and an HBO series that they're just working out the final details on the budget. What do you guys think those are going to be? What do you hope they will be? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, we're going to move on now and take your comments and questions that you guys have sent into our tip link at streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip, which you can find a link for down in the description below. But before we do, we've got to do a couple of things. One is bid good afternoon to the writer, director, producer extraordinaire, Robert Meyer Burnett. Great job as always, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
And we are also going to take a quick moment here and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Zapier. Guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, Zapier. You know, one of the biggest game changers of the past year has been AI. But let's be real, just talking about AI doesn't actually make your day any more productive. What does make it more productive is finding tools to put AI to work for you. And that's where Zapier comes in. Zapier is the easiest way to take AI and plug it directly into the apps and processes that you're already using every day. No IT bottlenecks, no complexity, just results. For me, it's been about saving time on repetitive stuff so I can focus on the work that matters and I actually enjoy. And it's not just me. Over 3.4 million companies are already using Zapier to streamline everything from sales and marketing to IT and HR. With their AI orchestration platform, you can connect top AI models like ChatGPT or Claude right into the apps you already use. So whether it's automatically enriching leads, coaching your sales team, or even resolving IT tickets, Zapier makes it simple. Guys, join the 3.4 million companies already automating with Zapier and transform how you work with Zapier and AI. Get started for free by visiting zapier.com/Campea. That's zapier.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Zapier for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that down, let's get over to the questions and comments you guys have been sending in here, shall we? And we're going to get things started off here with Matan Valinsky, who wrote, can we talk on how Apple advertise Vince Gilligan's Plubris? It might be the biggest show they've ever had. Oh, it's definitely not the biggest show they've ever had. And sneak peeks, there is no teaser. And they tell as nothing about Plumbus. Guys, please spell check what you're doing before you send it in. All right. First of all, I'm not even 100% sure about which one we're talking about here. I'm not exactly sure about, sorry, let me rephrase. I'm not exactly sure about when this show is supposed to come out, to be honest with you. So number one, it is definitely not going to be the biggest show they've ever had. Not at all. And I mean, that's probably going to be the new God of War series that the greatest showrunner of all time is going to be bringing us. So there's that. But I mean, I don't know. So I don't know when this show is supposed to come out. Look, if the show is more than 3 or 4 months away, then what is there to advertise right now? What's there to advertise? What's there to promote? Like with TV is a little bit different. You don't start really doing the big push on that until a little bit later. But then again, I don't know when. Oh, it's not coming till it's November 7th. So it's a little over a month away. Yeah. If it is November 7th, which is what Spencer is saying, is that it's November 7th. If it is November 7th, then yeah, they should probably get a move on advertising it. But I mean, I don't know how big or small it's going to be. So we'll have to wait and see. All right. Next up, we've got Mega Ultra Chicken, who writes, I finally saw Superman. Question I want answered. Lois suggested Superman shouldn't have stopped the invasion and Superman kills Ultraman. There's no indicators otherwise. He's killed him. Why is that getting a free pass for Pa Kent? Why is that getting a free pass, but for Pa Kent and Zod in Man of Steel boos? Well, they're two very different sets of circumstances, but I would argue not really that different. I mean, so for instance, with Lois suggesting that he shouldn't have saved those people, she didn't say that herself personally, but she is saying that there are other circumstances to consider. You have to understand that your actions have repercussions. It's a little bit more complicated. Like to Superman, and this is what makes him great, it's black and white, it's right and wrong. What Lois is bringing to the table in that conversation is that there's bigger questions to ask than just that. Like, what if saving one life leads to the death of 3 others? That's a very difficult question to ask. What if it causes more problems than it solves? And that's why I love that conversation in the movie between Superman and Lois, because Superman is very right and wrong, whereas Lois is more 50 Shades of Gray. And me personally, that's not too terribly dissimilar from when Pa Kent says to Clark in Man of Steel, when he says, was I supposed to just let them die? Pa Kent doesn't say, yes, you should have. But what Pa Kent says is, maybe. Because in Pa Kent's mind is, okay, you saved a bunch of kids on a bus. But what if that leads now to a crisis for a world that is not ready to know that there is an alien God living among us? Right? So that's why, to me, I've always defended that scene. I have always defended that scene in Man of Steel, and I always would. That is exactly what Pa Kent would have said, and it's exactly what Pa Kent should have said. Because Pa Kent is dealing with bigger questions about what the world is ready for. And so, not that he was right, but it's the fact that he even said, maybe. So, it's very similar in that way. With him killing Ultraman, though, I don't know if we simply don't know if he killed Ultraman. I mean, he sent him into a black hole. But like the situation with Zod, and I've always defended this, and listen, I will argue anybody about this, and I will win this debate easily. In Man of Steel, Zack Snyder wrote a scenario where Superman simply had no other choice. The option was kill Zod, or millions of people will die. There was no third option. Zack Snyder wrote Superman into a corner where he literally had 2 choices: kill Zod, or millions of people will die. So he made the impossible choice and killed Zod and felt horrible about it and let out this guttural scream and all that kind of stuff. Similarly, we find James Gunn's Superman in a situation. He was about to get beaten and maybe killed. And his one out right now was to get Ultraman off him, was to get position where he would get hit by that bus and caught into the black hole. I mean, there wasn't a lot of other options available to him. It was his literal clone. It was somebody who was genetically bred for one purpose, which is to defeat his own clone, and is programmed with all of his moves and strategies. And he found an out and he took the out. So I don't think any of those 4 scenarios, Lois and Clark, Pa Kent and Clark, Zod and Superman, Ultraman and Superman, I think all of those scenarios in both movies were perfectly well written and perfectly well done. So I don't think it's one gets a pass and the other. I think all of them are really good, but that's just me. All right. Next up, we've got Tristan Thorpe, who writes, saw There Will Be Blood. Oh, what a great movie. Saw There Will Be Blood for a second time, but in the theater for the first time. And man, that movie is amazing character work. The movie is great. Don't get me wrong. I think the movie is not good. It's great. I don't think it's one of the all-time greatest movies ever made. Like, it's not in my top 20 of the absolute epitome of the greatest films of all time, but I think it's a great film. But the most notable thing about There Will Be Blood is that I contend that it holds the single greatest performance ever given by an actor or actress in any film in history. And that's the GOAT, Daniel Day-Lewis, in that movie. I think it's the single greatest performance ever given. And I will stand on that. I will absolutely stand that. And what a great treat that you got to watch it in theaters, in an actual movie theater. That's great. All right. By the way, I guess I can take off my headphones now. All right. We've got Australian Jedi who writes, John, you will probably hate this. Well, maybe not. But I think it's possible the big cameo in Peacemaker could be Stephen Amell playing Earth X version of Oliver Queen. I 100% guarantee you it's not. From the Arrowverse's Crisis on Earth X crossover, P.S. Remember the Green Arrow joke from season 1. I'll give you 2 reasons why it's absolutely not that. Reason number 1 is they closed the portal to Earth X. Now, granted, Argus may reopen it in the season finale, but I think they've kind of moved on from it. But the other reason is, as David said, that's not a big cameo. Guys, I'm sorry, but nobody watches CW. I did. But like, we're talking about a show that had the hundreds of thousands of viewers, not millions of viewers. I love Stephen Amell. Love him. And I loved him as Oliver Queen. I loved him as Green Arrow. But that is a minor, obscure cameo that most people watching wouldn't even recognize. So while I certainly don't mind the idea of Stephen Amell popping back up in the DCU, hell, I don't even mind the idea of him popping up in the DCU as Green Arrow. The reality is though, that in no way, shape, or form qualifies as a really, really, really big cameo. Like at all, remotely. That would be an obscure, small cameo. And I say that as a huge fan of Stephen Amell, but it would be a relatively small cameo if that's what they did. All right. Next up, we got Calum, who writes, Calum celebrates 40 months of membership. Thank you, Calum. I hope they don't do the Downey as Doom reveal in the trailers. Leave it for the movie. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. That's why you and I are not marketing executives. What's the biggest draw for this movie? Let's hide him in the trailer. Let's hide him from the trailer. No way. The big selling point of this movie is Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. And it's not a surprise. They announced it on stage 2 years ago at Comic-Con. Of course you show him in the trailer. You don't give away everything, but of course you show him in the trailer. Remember when Justice League was coming out in theaters? Remember when Justice League was coming out in theaters? And the Brainiacs over at Warner Brothers, that was currently under the ownership of AT&T at the time, they decided, you know what? Let's not put Superman in the trailers. Why is nobody buying tickets? And then with 2 weeks to go before the movie came out, or like 1 week to go before the movie came out, they're like, maybe we made a mistake not putting Superman in the trailers. And then they started, but it was too little, too late. No, 100%. 100%. They're going to show, and they should show Robert Downey Jr. Like, why would you want a movie, but don't show the villain? Don't show the bad guy of the movie. That would make no sense. And I know I'm busting your balls here a little bit, Caleb. I'm busting your balls. It's all in love, man. This is us as movie fans talking together. I'm just saying it, like, how do you make a movie and not put the villain in the trailer? How do you make a movie that's as big as an Avengers film where the big marketing hook is Robert Downey Jr. returns, but this time, instead of the face of Earth's great defender, it's now the face of the biggest Earth threat? How do you not? Of course you put that in the marketing. Of course you do. And you should. It would be negligence if they didn't. So yeah, 100% they absolutely need to do that, Caleb. And by the way, celebrating 40 months of membership, dude, that's got to be right. You got to be one of the originals or at least really close to being one of the originals. Thank you for that, man. I appreciate it, dude. All right, next up. ScreenSpeak says, hey, John, I've seen multiple new reports that people are saying Rey is going to be in Starfighter. I guarantee you none of those reports are from real places. And it's probably one of those things where 3 different places are writing about it, but it all comes from the same obscure little source that has no credibility. Again, I haven't seen it, but I'm betting it's not from any reliable sources. I'm betting it's somebody from absolutely non-reliable sources. I've seen multiple new reports from who that are saying Rey is going to be in Starfighter. She's not. And I don't want to see that. I know you have said Levy won't put her in. What do you think is happening? No, I don't believe that at all. Now, listen, if Deadline starts writing that, well, maybe we got to take it seriously. But I guarantee you the places you're getting it from, again, I'm not bad-mouthing on anybody because I don't know what sources he's talking about, okay? So I'm not intentionally bad-mouthing anybody here. But I'm willing to put money that the sources, multiple new reports, probably all come from the same, maybe some Twitter feed of somebody said it and now a couple of websites wrote about it. But I guarantee you it's none of the reliable places. It's none of the hardcore places. So I wouldn't believe it at all, ScreenSpeak. All right. Next up, we've got Turd Ferguson. Turd Ferguson. It's funny. Turd Ferguson. Some of you won't know that reference, but trust me, it's great. All right. Turd Ferguson writes, John, I know you're against fan casting. I'm not against fan casting. I'm just saying we've got to keep it in context. But I think Ryan Gosling and Lakeith Stanfield would be priceless Crockett and Tubbs. I like that casting. Also, would not complain if Jeffrey Wright played Chief. The problem I would have with Jeffrey Wright playing the Edward James Olmos role is the fact that that's now getting typecasting, right? We already have Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. Don't just make him another Commissioner Gordon, right? So that's the one problem I have with that. But Ryan Gosling as Crockett would be a great Crockett. Lakeith Stanfield is great as anything. So I would be down for that. Again, I don't know if it would be a perfect casting or not, but I'd be down for it. All right, next up. Stephen Stanley writes, it makes me sad that Mandalorian and Grogu is the first Star Wars movie ever that I have zero excitement for. She's a legend producer for sure, but she's not a good studio head. Well, I've been saying that for like 5 years. Why do you think Kathleen Kennedy is still the head of Lucasfilm? I honestly have no idea. Listen, I am not, don't just toss this out as John Campea is a Kathleen Kennedy hater. I'm not at all. I think she's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Steven Spielberg calls her the greatest producer in Hollywood history. I think her resume backs that up. But there is a difference from being just a pure movie producer and being the head of a studio. They are 2 different jobs. And she's just because you're great at one doesn't mean you'll be great at the other. The greatest professional athlete of all time is Wayne Gretzky. There's no question about that. If you don't agree, I don't think you know sports. He's the greatest professional athlete of all time. He wasn't a very good coach, though. They're 2 different things. Yes, they're both hockey, but just because you're the greatest player of all time doesn't mean you're automatically going to be a good coach. He wasn't a good coach. Kathleen Kennedy is a great producer, but she's a terrible studio head. The only thing, and I have, just to be clear here, this is pure, straight out of my ass speculation. I have no insider information of this. This is not based on anything. My only hypothesis right now is that George Lucas may be holding that up. Now, George Lucas does not own Lucasfilm anymore, all that kind of stuff. But don't forget, Kathleen Kennedy was George Lucas's hand-picked successor. George Lucas picked her. George Lucas installed her. George Lucas anointed her. And my only theory, because there is absolutely no reason for her to still be the head of Lucasfilm. And by the way, I don't take anything away from the wins that she's had. She's had some wins there. Absolutely. I'm not taking any of that away from her. But I can see no rational explanation for her still being the head of Lucasfilm, other than George Lucas on the phone with somebody saying, if you throw out my handpicked successor, I will go on a public tirade against you. Again, I'm not saying that's a fact. That's just speculation on my part. But what else can it be at this point? I just don't know. I just don't know. What else can be big enough that would stop Disney from putting it and installing a new CEO, a new head of Lucasfilm, than George Lucas saying, if you throw out my handpicked successor, I'm going to publicly come out and bash everything you do. Again, I'm not saying George did that. I'm just saying I can't imagine why else she's still there. But anyway, everybody's got their theories, I suppose. All right. Thanks for that, Stephen. Next up, Scooby Drool writes, part 1 of 2. Hey, John, I understand that Hulk will be back in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Question is, will it be Hawaiian shirt Professor Hulk or the return of Savage Hulk? I, along with you, John, and all the fans are tired of Hawaiian shirt Professor Hulk and wish for the return of mean Savage Hulk. Just because Hulk lost to Thanos, that doesn't mean he should cower in fear forever. If Hawaiian shirt Professor Hulk is in Spider-Man, I don't know. Oh, Brand New Day, I might skip this film. Well, okay, look, if we're playing overreaction right now, Scooby Drool, I would say that is a massive, massive overreaction. Do I want Hawaiian shirt Professor Hulk? No, but this isn't a Hulk movie. It's a Spider-Man movie. Choose to go to this movie based on whether you want to see Spider-Man or not. Hulk is going to be a supporting character. It's not a Spider-Man and Hulk film. It's not even a Spider-Man and Punisher film. It's a Spider-Man film. Bruce and Frank are going to be supporting characters. Just like Happy and Tony were small supporting characters in the first Spider-Man movie, right? So, do I want Hawaiian shirt Hulk? Hell no. But if we still get Professor Hulk in this movie, am I going to go, I'm not going to go see Spider-Man? That's an overreaction. That's an overreaction because it's not even a Hulk movie. By the way, let me throw this out there too. Who's saying Hulk is going to be in it? What if it's just Bruce? I'm not saying that's what they're doing. I'm just saying, let's not lose sight of the fact that there is a possibility, however unlikely, there is a possibility that maybe it's just Bruce. Again, we'll see. But again, do I want it to be Professor Hulk? Absolutely not. I want Savage Hulk back, but this isn't a Hulk movie. So if it still is Professor Hulk, let's not overreact by going, well, I'm going to skip a Spider-Man movie just because one of the small supporting characters isn't being done the way I like him. I think that would be an overreaction, to be honest with you, because I don't want Professor Hulk either, but I'm still going to go see Spider-Man because it's a Spider-Man movie. Anyway. All right. Next up. Thanks for writing in, Scooby Drool. Hanser writes, I'm pretty sure our vigilante switched with his doppelganger and he stayed on Earth X. You know, I thought that at first, but I went back and watched it again, and I don't think that's the case anymore. Anyway, they will reveal this when we find out vigilante who came back to our Earth doesn't have a gunshot wound. Again, I don't think so. I thought that at first, but then again, I went back and watched it again. I'm like, no, everything looks right. And by the way, how big of a dick move would that be for our vigilante to rip that vigilante's home away from him and throw him into an alien universe that he doesn't know and all that kind of stuff, that take him away from his mom and from all that kind of stuff. So is it possible? It is possible. It's possible. But again, when I went back and then tried to follow, it's like that game where you put the red ball under a couple of cups and you switch the cups around. I was trying to play that game with, okay, so there's the vigilante that got shot. Okay, bump. No, it looks right. It looks like the right vigilante went through the door. Maybe it isn't. But again, that would be a terrible thing for our vigilante to do to that vigilante to take that vigilante's world away from him. Anyway, so we'll see. It is possible, but I'm going to say right now that I doubt that that's it. All right. Next up, Hamner Time writes, everyone talking about Del Toro's Frankenstein. Meanwhile, I saw the 4K restoration of 1957's The Curse of Frankenstein starring Peter Cushing. I haven't seen the 4K restoration of that, but I do love that one. And Christopher Lee, which is limited release in the UK last night. Did you know that Hammer Films is under new ownership, and in the last year, they've been releasing 4K box sets of restored films in their library and have tentative plans to produce new films? Do you think there's any chance Hammer could become as big as they once were in the 1960s? No, absolutely not. Can they be relevant? Yeah, but can they become that big player again? No. Now, I just realized, because of what you just wrote in there, Hammer Time, that we haven't talked about that Frankenstein trailer. I don't know why we haven't. It just skipped my mind. Woo! Guys, how good is that Frankenstein trailer? Have you guys seen it? The Del Toro one? Holy crap. Holy crap. That trailer looks great. And I also really like that it ends with saying in theaters October 17th or whatever the date is, and then on Netflix. So I'm glad they're doing that. But holy crap, how good did that trailer look? That trailer looked really good, man. It looked really, really good. I cannot wait to watch that movie. All right, let's keep going here. Next up, we've got Matan writes in again and writes, Channing Tatum had a poor choice of words regarding Doomsday that is going to, quote unquote, make your brain ooze out of your ear. You don't that kind of stuff when people are worried of slop and brain rot. Oh, dude, that's just ridiculous. Now you're just playing stupid semantics with people not having trust of Doomsday being not slop. That's not at all what anybody thought. Nobody on the planet thought that when he said that. He was clearly talking about super enthusiasm, super excited, mind blowing, and nobody mistook him as saying, oh, Channing Tatum is saying it's so dumb that we're going to become so stupid when we watch it. Or no one on the planet thought that. Nobody thought that. All right, next up. Ian McAllister wrote, I'll be totally honest. When I booted up HBO and saw the runtime of 33 minutes, I was the exact same way, man. It sapped all my excitement for the episode. Still a really good episode, despite logic issues. I had no logic issues with it, to be honest. But I really hope the finale is at least 45 minutes. These are Disney Plus runtimes. Listen, I'm right there with you. I was upset when I loaded up the episode and saw it was 33 minutes. I'm like, come on, Gunn, what are we doing here? Did you really make me wait in big anticipation all week for a 33-minute episode? Do better. That being said, the episode was fantastic. But I read the report today, and I believe it's now confirmed. I could be wrong, but I believe it's now confirmed that the final episode is going to be 57 minutes long, a proper length episode. So I think we will be very happy with that next week. Again, the important thing is that this week's episode was great. It would have been even greater if they could have let it breathe a little bit more and give us a little bit more of Peacemaker's dad and that whole thing. But still, the episode was utterly fantastic, but I am very happy to see that the finale is going to be like 57 minutes. All right. Next up, we've got Ian McAllister again, who writes, as for the God of War series, the studio and Ronald D. Moore have confirmed in interviews that they are adapting to the 2018 game. Yes, they have, as they should. Do you have any specific scene or moment you are looking forward to? I can't wait to see the fight with the dragon. Yeah, that's going to be great. I'm also really looking forward to seeing the dwarves. Like, those characters are so great. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they do that. Again, the key thing for this series is going to be casting. Who do you get to play Kratos? This whole series, I believe, is going to live and die on them casting this thing right. And then, of course, getting a kid to play, what's the kid's name again? Atreus? As his son, and having the right dynamic between them. It's all going to be about that. Then other than that, which scenes they include, which scenes they don't, not all that much of a concern to me. I'm sure Ronald D. Moore, who is the greatest showrunner of all time, he's going to make a great, compelling story. I'm just really, really kind of keyed in right now about who's going to play Kratos. Somebody in the live chat is saying Alan Ritchson. He's really big, but I don't think he's old enough. I think you need somebody older than Alan Ritchson. I think you need somebody who looks war weary and seasoned. But I mean, I wouldn't turn it off if it was Alan Ritchson. I think he's really good. I just think he's too young. All right. The Black Knight writes, Jonathan, you are officially a supervillain. I'm listening to Campea do a big buildup on the Peacemaker cameo, and then boom, YouTube advert. I know you did this. Oh, yeah, that was YouTube that did that. Let's not blame Jonathan Voico for that. All right. The Black Knight also writes, sometimes I send suggestions and I really can't tell if Campea is going to love them or hate them. My dream cameo in Peacemaker would be William Reeve as Superman, Jordan Kent. Ugh, no. That's just me. Just for me, it would be no. With him referencing his dad, no, I don't want any crossover at all with Superman and Lois, which was a good show, but no, none of that. And a retired CGI Christopher Reeve, oh, absolutely no. With gray hair smiling in the background, but maybe the Flash movie or Restore That Thunder. No, this is the DCU, friend. Clark Kent has come from Krypton and it's David Cornsweet. This isn't a universe where we've had that. Nobody watched Superman and Lois either. Relatively speaking, like nobody watched it. So nobody would even get the reference. So listen, you're clearly a big fan of Superman and Lois, and listen, I love the first season or two, but no, as your fellow film loving brother, I got to say, I don't think that would work. And I don't think it would work with a lot of people, but who knows? James Gunn has done crazier things. All right. Wade writes, it's my birthday weekend. Happy early birthday to you, my friend. And my sister and I are very excited to finally watch Monster, the Ed Gein story with Charlie Hunnam, who is, of course, from Sons of Anarchy, one of my favorite television shows of all time. I can't wait to see what he brings to the infamous Butcher of Plainfield. Yeah, I got to admit, I've never watched Monster. And as much as I love Charlie Hunnam, and I love Charlie Hunnam, I'm not planning on watching this one. It's not in my wheelhouse, which is fine, but you're not alone, Wade. I've heard a number of people say they're really excited about it, and I hope it turns out great, and I hope you have a good time with it. All right. Next up, Amin writes, the two best films I saw at TIFF were It Was Just an Accident. That looks amazing. That looks really good. Like I saw the trailer for that. I'm like, holy crap, this looks compelling. Won the Palme d'Or, and The Voice of Hind Rajab. I'm not familiar with that one. Please try to check them out, especially Just an Accident. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Just an Accident. Releases soon, and it's being predicted for a Best Picture nom. One of the best films of the year. Yeah, again, I mean, I saw the trailer for that, and again, I don't know the other film you're talking about, but that one looks tense. It looks like a thriller, mystery, tension-filled story. I cannot wait. I think it looks really good. I can't wait to watch it. I'm glad you liked it. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got Anonymous. Oh, and this is our final one of the day. Writes, Ben Barnes becoming Batman? Can't say I can picture it. Then again, Bale didn't win me over until I saw Batman Begins. I was one of those a-holes that crapped on Affleck until John's facts won me over. Weirdly, for Pattinson, I was on board straight away. Listen, I just don't know what there is to not like about Ben Barnes as Batman. He's got all the charm. He's got all the charisma. He's, most importantly, definitely got the acting chops. He's in great physical shape. Sure, he could bulk up a little bit more, but he could easily bulk up. He's always in good shape. Again, the one knock that could really work against him is, depending on the age that James Gunn wants this new Batman to be, Ben Barnes may be aged out of it. Now, for me, Ben Barnes is in that age that I'm hoping this Batman will be. But if James Gunn is thinking younger, then unfortunately Ben Barnes will be aged out. But other than that, I just don't see a compelling argument against Ben Barnes. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And anyway, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Yeah, look for me to do an open mic sometime this weekend. I'll be looking forward to doing that. And then, of course, we will be back again next week. Hey, guys, listen. What fun to be movie fans, and what fun to get together with fellow movie fans and talk about them and debate about them and have same points of view, having different points of view. It's just such a pleasure every day to just get together with other film fans and talk about this stuff. And you guys make my day better. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for allowing me to do this. That'll do it for us for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea. And until next time, my film loving brethren, bye-bye.